Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Club 2500, District 6110. This is the 5,278th meeting of our club for those of you who have been keeping count all that time. Hey, you know what? This room is even fuller than I had hoped it would be with the weather. Paul, you know how that is, folks. Sometimes COVID or snow, they won't show up. So we're glad you're here today. We're going to start with an invocation and pledge led by Darren Walkup, followed by guest introductions from Alan Whalen.
Hello, everyone. All right, with it being January and a new year ahead of us, invocation will kind of have that theme. As we come together with a new year ahead of us, let us take a moment to reflect on the promise of fresh beginnings. A new year offers us an opportunity to reassess our goals, renew our commitments, and reimagine the impact we can have in our community and beyond. May we approach this year with open minds, ready to embrace new ideas and challenges, and with open hearts dedicated to strengthening our bonds of fellowship. Let us be reminded of the values that guide us as Rotarians: service above self, integrity in all we do, and the pursuit of lasting change. As we look ahead, may we carry forward the lessons of the past while embracing the opportunities of the future. Let this meeting remind us of to start a year filled with meaningful action, fruitful collaboration, and a renewed sense of purpose. With gratitude for the chance to make a difference, let us embark on this new year ahead of us. Please join me in the pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We have a number of guests and visiting Rotarians. When I call your name, would you please stand and remain standing and hold your applause, everyone, till the very end. Andrea Bartlett has her husband Gary Bartlett and Faye Bartlett, and her daughter Faye Bartlett. Brian Jackson has his daughter Bella Jackson. And Kenny Brown has his son Anderson Brown. And then we have 4 visiting Rotarians from Southside. Jeremy Nichols. Hi, Jeremy. David Hughes. Hi, David. Naresh Jasal. And David Cobb. Hi, David. Welcome again to the Rotary Club and have an enjoyable meeting, and welcome and come back soon. President Carl has given me permission to do rather than a side mic, a top mic up here real quick. Many of you know that this Friday and Saturday we have the South Central Rotary Youth Exchange Winter Conference with Rotarians and exchange students coming from all over the central part of the United States. I have responsibility, along with several of my committee members, to find host families for all of the 71 visiting Rotary Exchange students. I'm down to 3 boys. I need 1 more family, so I'll be available here in the middle after the meeting if you can help me out. The responsibility is to pick them up sometime Friday afternoon when they've all arrived. Provide them dinner, breakfast, a little lunch. They can sit and talk with you all. You can take them somewhere. It's whatever you all would like to do. And then they're back at the hotel at about 3 o'clock, the Doubletree at Warren Place, 61st and Yale. If you'd like some more information, because I would have to have you do some quick paperwork online, see me after the meeting. And thank you. And there are quite a few people in here that are hosting, and we are very grateful for your hospitality. Thank you.
Boy, I tell you what, I know it's going to be a good meeting when I see Roger Ramsire and Brooke Hamilton with us today. We're so glad to see you guys. Thank you for coming. My friend David Hughes from Southside, I have the privilege playing in the Asbury Orchestra with David. David plays the trumpet. I play the saxophone. One of our running jokes is, what's the difference between a trumpet and an onion? Nobody cries when you chop up a trumpet. You're welcome, David. One guest who wasn't introduced is Phil Ashley's son, Hayden Ashley, is with us today. Hayden, I'm glad you came. You were here for our last AI presentation. I guarantee you'll enjoy this one a lot more. I want to give a shout out to how many of you knew that this year is the 50th anniversary of Camp Enterprise. Wow, holy cow. Brian's back there leading the applause. He's sitting at the same table with Case Anderson. Case is the chair of that this year. Case, I understand we are still looking for volunteers. Is that correct? Okay, so Case has done a great job for us the past couple of years. Please talk to him about Camp Enterprise if you can assist with that. They have a great program, and I think we're anticipating even stronger attendance this year than we had last year. You know, I've got, as you might expect, a little Rotary DNA for you today. We're going to go back to June 11th, 1973. June 11th. What was going on in the world in June of 1973? I heard somebody say it. We were on the brink of an oil embargo. It was a tense time in our nation. Richard Milhous Nixon was our president. Henry Kissinger was our Secretary of State. I would argue he was probably our greatest Secretary of State. But in June 11th of 1973, the Rotary Club of Tulsa held one of the most memorable events in our history, the Wild Game Dinner. The Wild Game Dinner was held at Freddy's Steakhouse in Manford, overlooking recently completed Lake Keystone. Lake Keystone was dammed up and formed in the late 60s. Freddy's originally opened his restaurant in Drumright in, I think, 1969. In 1972, he opens the Freddy's in Manford, and he gave the original Freddy's in Drumright to his son. Why does that matter? Tulsa at that time was the oil capital of the world. While the rest of the nation struggled with this idea of gasoline going from 38 cents a gallon to 55 cents a gallon and was all messed up, Tulsa oil men and members of this club and the Chamber of Commerce were making deals. Where did they make those deals? They made those deals at places like Southern Hills Country Club, Tulsa Country Club, and Freddy's Steakhouse, where the finest steaks in the area were. And they made those deals when they were on their way to western Oklahoma, where their hunting leases were. So a wild game dinner. Think about this. It was a resounding success. It drew 365 guests for a feast like no other. The menu alone was legendary. It was an impressive spread that included buffalo, venison, bear. Have you ever had bear meat, David? No. Elk, wild sheep, wild geese, wild turkey, wild boar, prairie chicken, quail, and a variety of fish, including smoked king salmon, trout, catfish fillets, and bass. Now, on that whole list, the only thing I can think of that would have come out of Lake Keystone was maybe some catfish and bass. Now, where did all of that other wild game come from? Well, think about it. The guys that made up our club at that time were the big decision makers and oil players in the city of Tulsa. And one of the things that you did was you went on big game hunting trips. And when you got a bear or an elk, you preserved that meat, brought it back with you, put it in the freezer. And so the members of our club said, let's have this wild game dinner. And they all put in some of the trophy meat that they had harvested on their hunts. Now here's the best part. Dinner at that event was $4.50. Now you think 55-cent a gallon gas is expensive, $4.50 for a meal, $1 for children under 12, which is proof that great food, great fellowship, and great memories don't require a big price tag. Now getting to that event at Lake Tenkiller at Freddy's was half the adventure. Of the 365 guests, 81 of them arrived by helicopter. Yes, helicopters at $85 an hour flew pairs of Rotarians in from Tulsa and around the lake. But there weren't just helicopters. The houseboats of then President Allen Edwards and member Bob Moore, along with Jacques Cunningham's sailboat, rode the waves that day until high winds brought the waterborne festivities to a halt. Meanwhile, back at the ranch at Freddy's, the real stars of the evening, the wild game, were being prepared. And they started on that early in the day, but at 6:30 p.m., on the money, Rotarians dug in, and nobody had anything negative to say. I was kind of hoping Mike Decker would be here today from the Tulsa World, but we do have Jenny Graham. And according to the newspaper article that appeared the next day, it used a single superlative to describe the meal: super. At the Wednesday luncheon following the dinner, President Allen Edwards called up the committee responsible for the event. It was a large committee, and they were greeted with a huge round of applause and gratitude. And that was a large committee. So we're working on our next Golden Circle Gala coming up in September. And somebody help me, is it the 25th of September we're shooting for? We're working on our committee for that. We'd like to duplicate the attendance at that wild game dinner. We need committee members to help us build that event coming up in September. I hope you'll consider it, especially with this little bit of Rotary DNA. The tireless workers and committee members in 1973 didn't just do the preparation in the kitchen, but they also had to do the cleanup afterwards, and they were there until late in the night. Now, Allen Edwards asked at that meeting where the committee was recognized, how about another one next year? And apparently they decided not to do that again because it was so very much work. So, that, my friends, is the wild game dinner of 1973, a night of adventure, unforgettable food, great company, and memories that have lasted literally for decades. Truly an example of Rotary spirit of fun, fellowship, and service. Now, I have to ask, we have some members that have been here a very long time, but does anyone remember that event? Did anyone get to participate in that? Ben Gurrell, was it as spectacular as we've described?
Yes, it really was. It was great. How many times have you had a chance to do all that wild and eat all those different things? It was great. And so many different people showed up for it. Ed Bentley was my father-in-law, which is why I got an opportunity to go. So it was an outstanding deal.
Well, so think about this, the kind of people that were Rotarians in 1973. I can't say that they were members of this club, but the Williams brothers, there's records in the press of them being big Rotarians. They were in the throes of the plans that eventually became the Williams Center. Joe McGraw the biggest developer of Tulsa, south of Skelly Drive and many other parts of Tulsa, was a big Rotarian as well. Those were the kinds of people that drove our club. So it was a great event. We're going to try to find a way. Does anybody have any bear we can get for the Golden Circle? So now I find myself up here once again introducing a fabulous Rotarian of the day. Karen McCannell and I were classmates in Leadership Tulsa 28 way back in 2001, I believe. A long time ago, yeah. Karen is the Chief Operating Officer at TMG, a national architecture firm recognized for its expertise in retail and ADA consulting. With more than 20 years at TMG, she excels at aligning clients' diverse needs with the firm's specialized capabilities. She takes pride in building long-standing client relationships. Now, I just used the term alignment with clients' needs. How many of you saw the email from Tina late yesterday or this morning that was a survey from President-elect Karen requesting your feedback on our club? I hope you will find that email and click that link and give Karen some feedback. She's working really hard. We have been working in tandem throughout my year as president in preparation for her year to make it the best year at the Rotary Club of Tulsa yet. Help her out and respond to that survey. Karen joined TMG as a project manager supporting a national restaurant conversion program and has since held multiple leadership roles, including business development, marketing, and HR manager, director of business development, and finally her current title, Chief Operating Officer. Karen's a strong advocate for community involvement. She volunteers for Revitalized T-Town, New View, Oklahoma, Tulsa Changemakers, AIA, Eastern Oklahoma, and the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Karen, I wanted to ask you about this. It says you serve as the Canadian ambassador to Canada, for the U.S. JCI Senate, and is the Oklahoma Government Affairs Chair for the International Council of Shopping Centers, an international organization focused on advancing marketplaces. Her past leadership in our community includes board president of the Margaret Hudson Program, past president of Leadership Tulsa, the Oklahoma JCs, and the Oklahoma JCI Senate. Within Rotary, Karen has contributed in numerous capacities and looks forward to serving as president our next Rotary year. Please join me in welcoming our president-elect, Karen McCannell.
Man, if I didn't know me, I'd vote for me. That's a pretty good resume. It's hard to write down, I will tell you, when Tina says we need to update this. It was very hard to do, and then I started writing, I have to quit. So I'm very honored to introduce my new friend, Joey Rignaraja. He's the managing partner of 19 Days, a problem-obsessed venture studio that serially launches AI startups. He manages the fund operations and investment, financial strategy, and helps startup leaders navigate day-to-day operational issues. For example, sales and pricing, financial planning, human capital, and negotiations. Prior to 19 Days, Joey spent 6 years at Argonaut Private Equity, formerly George Kaiser's sole private equity vehicle, as an operator working to help companies across a wide range of industries and stages by developing corporate strategies, implementing new information, and building sales organizations, supporting marketing programs, and optimizing supply chains and logistics. He also started and sold a waste business and stays active in the community, supporting education and entrepreneurship as a member of the board of the Foundation for Tulsa Schools and the Holland Hall Board of Trustees, and a past board member of numerous other nonprofit boards. Joey's career has spanned multiple continents and industries. He was a civil engineer, CB, in the U.S. Navy with tours in Guantanamo Bay, Baghdad, and Washington, D.C., a strategic advisor in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and a management consultant for Fortune 500 aerospace and defense companies. He's earned a computer engineering degree from Tulane University in New Orleans, a Master of Public Policy from Harvard, and an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. His fun fact is that his wife, Carly, spoke to Rotary Club a few weeks ago about her work with Tulsa Cares. So please welcome with me, and thank you for your service, Joey Wignaraja.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. Actually, that fun fact about my wife actually goes way farther back than just a couple weeks ago when she spoke to you all. We met in Leadership Tulsa, Youth Leadership Tulsa, 30 years ago, and it took us about 20 years to get together. But when we were in high school, we were both awarded community service awards from the downtown chapter of the Tulsa Rotary. So who am I and what am I doing here? That was a great bio, but what I'm hoping to do today is to talk about AI in business contexts, right? Understanding that a lot that is out in the world right now about AI, if you want to learn about it, is highly technical, right? That's not what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the real way that you find opportunities to introduce AI into your business and into your life. So first, a little bit about 19 Days. 19 Days is a venture studio, which means about 5 years ago, my partners and I went and raised money from investors and said, look, we don't have a startup, but we have what we believe is a good process for coming up with startups. And this is before AI was really accessible by most people. And we said, if you trust us with your money, we think we're going to give more of it back to you in the future. So we had to go find problems to solve, right? And what we do is we put some expertise around them in all aspects of business and hope to give them a better chance of success than most startups. And so today, what we're going to talk about is I'm going to do AI in one slide, which is a huge task, but I just want to make sure that we all have sort of even footing on what AI means, really. We're going to talk about AI as a business challenge. How do we use it? How do we use it to solve business challenges? How do you actually find the opportunities? How people sort of progress through their usage of AI, and how we've applied this all intentionally at 19 Days to come up with some what I think are pretty interesting and valuable companies. So the best way to think about AI is that it's simply a prediction engine, right? It's a piece of software that has been designed to take in incredible amounts of information and then identify statistical patterns and can make predictions rather than being based on rules or generating intent or meaning. It produces extraordinarily complex predictions, which are what makes it feel real, right? It's taking in more data than we can really comprehend, and it gives it a way of reaching human-like predictions, right? In the end, humans remain responsible. In the end, humans remain responsible for deciding how it does that and how the outputs it creates are used, right? And so it's really important to understand that business value comes from where AI is applied, right? Where humans choose to apply it, not from the AI in and of itself. So in general, how people get introduced to AI evolves over time. So just sort of think about where you may be in your own journey, right? The first stage is awareness, right? Awareness of LLMs, large language models. like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Maybe you're aware of them, but you haven't really used them, right? From there, most people go to personal use. They're asking it questions, they're writing emails, or they're using it to learn something or to create something. Kind of like a Google Plus, but moving into actually doing things. From there, a lot of people move into using it at work. Hey, how can I make my work life a little easier, right? They start taking a first swing at drafting documents, summarizing research or big pieces of information that they have, finding legal references or finding things in a contract. From there, people, when they get comfortable with it, start thinking about, how can I use this to actually change our workflows, right? Writing standard operating procedures, maybe creating better processes for handoffs, using it in customer support. And then from there, sort of the end right now, this will not be the end in the future, but this is the end right now. People are using it to help make really complicated decisions, right? Where most people get stuck right now is they end at the productivity at work level. The individual contributor using it to be more productive is where a lot of companies are stopping right now. And we want to think through, how do you move past that to really recognize the full potential of AI today? And so today, we're going to focus on this as a business challenge. What we're really talking about is we're going to be focused on how do we use AI. That's a business challenge, right? Because sorry, I've got two things going on here. Sorry, feel free to keep me honest if it looks like it's not matching up. Access to AI is no longer scarce. I mean, my 8 and 10-year-olds are using a little bit. We're trying to find the right ways for them to use it. It's becoming part of basic business infrastructure. Anyone here who works or run a business probably gets hit up on LinkedIn all the time by, try my new AI thing, try my new AI marketing thing. It is becoming pretty ubiquitous in the way that people are building software and the way they approach us. So then, with that in mind, the only real differentiator is how you choose to apply it in your business, right? Because just having it now is not a differentiator. It may feel like that if you haven't been thinking about it, but even in many sort of older, slow to change industries, people are starting to adopt it. And really, the people who get it right are the people who understand how they're going to choose where to put it first, right? At 19 Days, we focused on operator-focused leverage first. How do we create leverage for sort of the frontline value creator before we move into a more strategic thinking? So, really, this is my bucket, right? There are two ways, really, that AI can help businesses, right? There's the strategic focused leverage. What are executives thinking? Can they get better data? Can they think about how to reallocate resources within the company using AI? And then there's the operator-focused leverage. How can I help my employees actually accomplish what they're doing day to day better? Most executives spend a lot of time thinking about how AI is going to change their company or their industry, when really over here in the operator-focused part, a lot of employees are drowning in their day-to-day tasks, and AI has an incredible opportunity to improve their quality of life and the quality of their work. So how do you go about finding the opportunities for AI to improve your business? This framework is mine. It's not copyrighted. I don't know how insightful it is, but I was trying to think about what is the most practical way I can tell people, how do you find the opportunity? And step one is start where the work is painful, right? Choose one meaningful, painful problem in your company. Right? Then you're going to validate that it's a good problem for AI to solve, and we'll talk about how to do these things. Then you're going to plan for AI's strengths and its limitations. If you're aware of its strengths and limitations, You can structure around that, and you don't have to worry about them as much. And then after the value is proven, you go and you look for adjacencies. So let's dig in a little bit. We'll dig into each of these a little deeper. So to find a good place to start, look for the pain. Here are the kinds of things we're looking for. We're looking for tasks that are high volume and involve some amount of pattern recognition. One example would be insurance claims, which we have a business in, and I'll talk about it. It's people who are reviewing claims for completeness. Has the field adjuster provided every photo that I need or every piece of information that I need? That right now, today in most places, takes a human digging through files and paperwork to do. That's a job that AI can do very quickly. It can look at a document, look at a set of documents, and decide if it's got everything it needs. Right? It doesn't get bored, it doesn't get distracted, so it makes very few mistakes in work like that. You can also look for activities that require information from disparate sources that need to be synthesized. Right? So imagine an employee every week, they're trying to prepare for an update meeting, a staff meeting, and they're digging through emails, digging through Slack, digging through some other reports, looking for information that they can aggregate and provide their update to other people. AI does that very well, and it does it very consistently because it really does do a good job at understanding context and what's important and what's not. The other thing it does is a very good job identifying predictions based on the past. So it can do forecasting, it can estimate costs based on past data. Then I think I would look for expertise bottlenecks. It's very good at augmenting expertise in people who may not have it. So think about a task where you say, oh, I don't really know how to do that, but Janice knows how to do it because she's been here 20 years. With some effort, AI is very good at learning what all that expertise is because you have it in a lot of different places in your company, not just in Janice's memory. It can learn how to do those things and make it easier for new people to figure it out. So you're looking for those kinds of things. And so once you find pain of any of these types, you've got to validate that it's a good use case for AI. Right? And so the way we do that is we say, does it require an understanding of unstructured data? Right? So when we think about structured versus unstructured data, structured data, imagine a table with some headers across the top, maybe some row identifiers down the left side, and every piece of data in that table, we know what it is, and we know how to find it, we know how to retrieve it. Conversely, think about information in emails, or in Word documents, or in PowerPoint presentations. There's a lot of information in that. It's all unstructured. You can't do anything with it until you put some sense of order around it. Well, AI can. Then think about maybe, is this a problem where human expertise is important, but it's not scalable? Right? Is there only one person that can do that job because they have all the expertise? AI is very good at helping creating leverage in those situations so that the person with the expertise can do more. And then the last one's a little bit abstract, but would probabilistic guidance add value, even if it's not perfect? So would I be okay with the directionally correct answer here because that's enough to move forward? Right? Would I put something that was life or death in the hands of AI without a human there? Absolutely not. But if I just kind of needed to know the 80% solution and that was enough to keep moving quickly, then it's probably a good problem for AI. And so the next thing we do is, as we're thinking through this problem and we've validated it, we need to be able to plan for AI's strengths and limitations. We've talked a little bit about its strengths, but it really works best right now when AI is there for decision support, not the actual decision maker. So imagine that AI could say, so this is the way a lot of banks are using it today. Imagine that they will send loans through an AI underwriter, and the AI underwriter would say, I would do this loan with this amount of certainty, but I think we're missing this, this, and this. And then a loan officer or a loan committee looks at it and says, okay, I see that. Let me go see if I can solve for those risks. If I can't, then we need to use some human judgment here. Right? Then what you want to do is you want to set really clear success metrics so if you know what you're getting, so you know if you're getting what you want out of the AI. For example, in the claims situation that I gave earlier, I might say, if I get a 30% improvement in claims throughput, that's a win, and I am happy with that. If I don't get that, then I have to ask myself, is the effort and any new risks introduced by AI worth the trouble? Next, we want to design for confidence levels. So in my prior example, the directionally correct one, you say, you don't expect AI to give you a yay or an A. You want it to say, I think this is true, and I'm 90% sure of it. And that just then gives you the right information you need to know how sure it is so you can ultimately make the decision. And this one's critically important. Make sure in the beginning that you design a human feedback loop, right? That there's a human that's participating, a human that's evaluating the output and deciding if it's right. That'll help you build confidence in your organization, help you build confidence in the AI system itself, and it'll keep you from making errors. And a lot of times it's not really that hard. It's not burdensome to put a human in the loop. And then just accept that it'll be wrong sometimes. You're gonna get productivity uplifts, you're gonna get cost reduction. It's gonna be wrong sometimes, but that's why you have the human there. But I would be careful not to approach it as, oh man, it only works 90% of the time, so 10% of the time, like I just don't want that. I'll go back to the humans. I mean, I hate to tell you, I mean, me included, I mean, if I said I was right 90% of the time, that'd be a lie. It'd be generous. Ask my wife, bring her back. She'd give a speech on that, yeah. And so what I have noticed and what we've noticed as a team is that AI initiatives seem to succeed, and we've learned this through the businesses that we've launched, when they follow some of these patterns. We have solved an incredibly painful problem that people already wanted fixed but didn't know how to fix it or that it could be fixed. Right? I think it's really important that any AI solution fits seamlessly into existing workflows. Right? So what we've found is we can make people's lives better with a lot of AI. If there is a cost of change, or sometimes called the tax of change, someone has to change the way they do work, they might just say no because they don't want to change. They don't want to change because it is cognitively hard. Right? If you can find an AI solution that works invisibly in the background, which some of our examples do, even better. If people don't have to change at all, and AI, they're not hit over the head with an AI hammer, you have a much greater probability of success. And then, you need to make sure that any value created is immediate and obvious. It's a little bit like, you don't get credit if you introduce the AI now and it doesn't make their lives any easier now, but there's some benefit, some sort of abstract and intangible benefit 6 months from now or 9 months from now, right? Because the change effort is now, and if you want it to be successful, you have to link it to the reward now. And this actually is not new. Is anybody familiar with lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, any of those kinds of things? Or have you heard of it? One of the principles there, one of the things you do when you do it, say on a manufacturing floor, is you ask the frontline employees, what are their ideas for improving this manufacturing line? And if you want them to stay engaged, you want them to stay bought in the process, you, that day or by the very next day, need to implement as many of those things that you can. and it will completely change the level at which they buy in. And then most importantly, like any initiative in your company or organizations or in your family, anywhere, there has to be a clear champion. There has to be somebody who really wants this to succeed, who wants to drive it forward, who can get down in the trenches and participate in implementing the AI. So we have also noticed the opposite thing, right? When do AI initiatives stall, right? There's a few common stumbling blocks, and one is, did the problem come from the strategy decks, not from the people doing the work? Did you hire, I was very briefly a management consultant, and I say very briefly because I was very bad at it, because it all felt very strategic and not real. So if you hire McKinsey, no problem with McKinsey, but if the change is because they said to do it, you're not going to get adoption. Right? It won't feel real to the people that are actually going to have to do the change. If it requires people to do too much change, people won't do it. I'll never forget, this wasn't an AI problem, but it was a software problem. I got a call from one of our CFOs in one of Argonaut's portfolio companies, and he said, I found this software that will make shipping faster. Our shipping clerk just needs to put in the dimensions of the product, how much it weighs, and when it needs to get where it's going. Right? And they'll get 5 quotes instantly, she can pick, and we'll move on. Right? As opposed to what she was doing today, which was to pick up the phone and call 5 or 6 freight companies, and that's how she'd spend her day, going through each thing we had to ship that day. So we go through the demo. He says, will you come sit in this so she knows it's important? And I said, sure. So at the end of it, I said, hey, this looks like it's going to save you a lot of time. This is going to make your life a lot easier. And she said, oh, yeah, it definitely will, but I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to do it because it's change. And I said, okay, well, but that is, I've told that story so many times. That's exactly what she said to me. I'm not paraphrasing or anything. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to do it because it's change. And so the other thing, the opposite of a champion, if you have no accountability for success and you say, hey, where are the executives? You guys are now using AI and you're going to change and this is how it's going to work. It will not go anywhere, right? They will outlast you. Somebody told me that when I was in the Navy. They said, don't make all the people under you angry because they will just stop doing work and they know you're going to be out of here in 18 months anyway, right? And then the last thing is, I think people wait sometimes for the software or whatever, the change, to be 100% perfect instead of launching with the 80% solution, right? As long as it's not going to damage anything mission critical or any of that, sometimes you just got to get going because there's no getting to 100% without launching at the 80, right? To get from 80 to 100%, you have to refine and change. And so don't be afraid to go. And so here's some examples from things we've actually built. We have a company called Agentech, and Agentech's target customer is insurance carriers and third-party adjusters. I can't think of many industries slower to move than very large property and casualty insurance carriers. Right? They spend almost $200 billion per year on humans to review property and casualty claims. Right? They're having an issue right now that claims demand is up about 30 or 40% since 2019, but adjusters are aging out and they can't replace them fast enough. And so what's happening is a lot of P&C claims are getting pushed out many, many months. Customers are unhappy, regulators are starting to pay attention. It's just not a good situation for them. Agentech uses AI to support desk adjusters, and we're improving speed and accuracy. Why is it working? It's a job that involves high-volume pattern recognition. We designed it to have human in the loop. Human adjusters still look at the end result. They don't have to spend all the time preparing it anymore. So they're still critical to the process. And we're creating immediate measurable value. Once these adjusters start using it, they love it. Once the executives figure out that they're getting consistency that's measurable and they're getting measurable improvements, they love it. And the results are, we went from 2 to 3 hours a claim for some of our customers to 5 to 7 minutes. We're seeing an 80 to 95% reduction in per claim cost and a 30% increase in their accuracy. So it's actually more accurate than when they were doing it with humans alone. Another business we have is called Synth. Our target customer is owner-operated psychology practices. So psychologists, right? These are not necessarily high-tech individuals. These are PhD psychologists. The demand for psychological assessments is exploding for a lot of reasons, right? Psychologists are falling behind due to the labor-intensive nature of what they're doing, right? They're giving a lot of assessments that are generating a lot of data and a lot of narrative, and they then have to take all of that and turn it into a diagnostic report, which is the jumping off point for all the treatments and medications or anything that a patient might get. We use AI to understand the patient context. We can take handwritten notes, handwritten forms from parents or patients. We can take test results that are in PDFs or data. We can take observational notes or recordings, and we write the first draft of their report in minutes and not hours. Right? So why is it working? It's synthesizing unstructured data. It's preserving clinical judgment. We make no diagnoses. They get to choose. And it's immediate relief from burnout. This says per claim, sorry, I have a typo, but it takes them 6 to 8 hours and sometimes 2 to 3 months to write these reports, because the odds of them sitting down for 6 to 8 hours at one time is 0. Now, they get a first draft in 30 to 60 seconds, and they spend about the rest of a half hour editing it. Right? We can see from our data that over 80% of our reports are generated during normal working hours, so they're no longer working nights and weekends. Right? And the time to diagnose is reduced from weeks to days. We have one psychologist who told us that they're this close to doing same-day diagnoses for patients when they used to have to wait 2 to 3 months. And so our newest business launching now is called Heroic. And our target customer is small and medium businesses and staffing and recruiting firms. Our belief is the way people hire is broken. Hiring teams, when someone says, hey, I think I need a new analyst, or I need this role, very rarely is there real thought gone into what that role needs. What are the capabilities we truly need? They go back and they dust off an old job description, completely ignoring the fact that the last time they hired their business, it was maybe 2 or 3 years ago for that role, and the context within the business has changed dramatically. They're not taking the time to really redefine the role. And as a result, candidate fit is low, turnover's higher, productivity suffers. People just aren't staying because they're getting into roles where they're not successful. So we've created an AI hiring expert that creates unmatched role intelligence to improve hiring outcomes. What does that mean? It starts at the root of the problem. We help you redefine the role in real time when you need to hire. We help you convert unstructured data. You speak to this platform. You don't have to have the perfect thought. You don't have to sit down and write the perfect memo. You just talk to it, and it will help uncover what's really important to you. Not only that, you can have several of your colleagues do it, and it will take their opinions and let you know where you're aligned and misaligned, right? And create alignment. So it takes all that unstructured data and brings it together in usable intelligence. That whole effort that I just described to get to the ideal outcome, people would never do it because the lift is too huge, because you would have to do it, you would have to do it, you'd have to do it, then you'd have to get together, see if there's alignment, all of that. Then someone would have to write the job description, then you have to vet candidates, all this stuff. And we're doing it all. If you want to try it, you can go to, If you want to try it, you can go to heroic.ai and jump right in. You don't have to sign up till you get to the end if you're interested. But I challenge you to try it because it will give you a good idea of what's possible with AI, like how we're pushing the boundaries. And so I'll say each of these companies followed this framework. We found extraordinarily painful problems. We validated that AI was the right solution, right? There were times when we found problems that needed a solution. We're like, AI is not the right problem. One problem a psychologist had, we didn't try to solve it with AI. I just made a new document for them in Word that works better with what they had, and I emailed it to them, right? Not everything's got to be AI, right? We designed for human in the loop. Agentech has a claims adjuster. Synth, the psychologist, keeps all of the power. And in Heroic, your HR leader or whoever's hiring for that role is going to be right at the center of the whole process. And then once it works, we scaled based on proven value. This framework is going to work whether you're building something new like we are, whether you're solving a problem in your own business. I tried to make it as generalizable as possible. And that's what I've got. I went a couple minutes over, but that's what I have. I hope that was useful. And I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, sir. Okay. So the name of the company, 19 Days, it comes from a quote widely attributed to Albert Einstein. Upon further research, we concluded he did not say it, but we loved it anyway. He said, if you give me 20 days to solve a problem, I'd spend 19 days defining it and 1 day solving it. And so, back there, John.
What type of things are you trying to do in maybe education or other types of fields?
So we have not built, well, we have not purpose-built any AI for education. I think there's a lot of really incredible work being done there. We did, however, we had one venture that we decided not to pursue, but we had the technology, and because of my role on the foundation board, we did a survey at Tulsa Public Schools. The software was this. We built an AI that operated by voice. It's called voice-to-voice AI. It could have a conversation with teachers to find out how they felt about a particular piece of software. Right? The reason why it was impactful is because what we built, we gave the AI researcher that we built an objective. We didn't tell it what questions to ask. It's not a survey monkey or something like that where you're limited to really strict logic. We said, here's the research objective. You ask the questions you need to ask, right? And it's a little bit more complicated. There's an AI that has a job to say, okay, what's the research objective? There's an AI that listens to the conversation and says, have we achieved the objective? There's an AI that says, okay, we haven't gotten it. Should we ask the question a different way? What are the different ways we can get to the outcome? Well, we did a pilot for them to see what happened. It's because they wanted to evaluate a particular piece of software, and based on the outputs of that, the chief strategy officer went and looked at the data and determined that for a particular piece of software, there was no advantage for the top half of readers using it. For the top half of readers, it produced no improvement in reading, and they changed the curriculum based on that. They said if a child tests in the upper 50%, they no longer have to spend their time on this. We need to find something more challenging, and we can focus on the bottom 50%. Right? So, yes.
How do you handle data privacy?
It varies based on the business, how much privacy is required, and there's a couple ways to handle it. There are large language models where you can run a very small version of it locally to your own machine or on a server or Amazon Web Services, and it will do limited things in a very controlled environment. The other way to do it, if you need more power, the whole model is several of the LLM companies will sign a zero retention agreement with you. So you can process the information, get it back, and they immediately delete it. It's not used to train anything. So any of our healthcare related businesses have an arrangement like that. And then we use all this sort of typical SOC and things like that you need to protect patient information.
Hi, this is all exciting. I love the human in the loop aspect of this. It's nice to hear. There's still an underlying concern about the engine driving all this.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the industry at in improving the efficiencies of data centers to reduce the amount of energy it takes to run that? And where is it at on that in improving kind of, like say, the engine behind all this?
Okay. That's a good question. I will say we're a little bit out of my depth on this, but I'll tell you what I know. There are two schools of thought on data centers, right? It's that data centers are very bad, they're very energy intensive, they can be bad for water. So we really need to look hard, put the brakes on, and not do this. That could be true in the short term. I don't really know. There are other people that will say, we will never solve the demand for data centers with the way that we are generating energy right now. It's impossible. We need to find better, more efficient ways to generate energy because the data centers aren't going away. Tell me one useful technology that was bad for a little bit that we were able to like put back in the box. It's not going to happen. And so, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win. My opinion is probably in the near term, we're going to outpace the regulators. A lot of our regulators don't understand any of this stuff. And so, that's not to be mean, they just don't. And so we're going to outpace all of that for a while. We're probably going to have some bad water outcomes. We're going to have these things that happen. I do have faith in us to be able to catch up, to drive innovation. A lot of companies that are growing like wildfire in the stock market right now are companies that have come up with new ways of doing micronuclear that's clean to power data centers. It's driving a lot of innovation and a lot of new energy technologies, and I tend to think that's going to win the day.
Thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you.
Hayden, did you get what you paid for today? Good deal. Hayden is an accounting guy, and I bet if you've got a minute to meet him, he'll have some ideas for you on ways to smooth out accounting with AI. I really enjoyed this presentation. This meant a lot to me. I'm learning AI as hard and fast as I can, and that's not saying much, but I'm doing what I can. There's so many aspects to it. It's incredible. Joey, we're going to give a book honoring your program to our partners in education, Suya Clinton Elementary. I don't see the book on the table, but it's called The Start of Something Big, and I certainly think what we talked about today is the start of something big. We have some outstanding upcoming programs. February 4th is going to be Jack Frank talking about how they're using AI to colorize some of those great old Tulsa films that he produces. February 11th is Kujanga Jackson. He's going to talk about bridging the tech and education gap. Do you know Kujanga? No, I think he's another friend of Chase's. Chase, is there anybody you don't know, man? Holy cow. And then February 18th, a very salient topic, Reese Martin, president of the Route 66 Association, and this year is the centennial of Route 66. You might want to come and hear that. Kaiden, I see you brought your daughter with you. What's her name? Zella. Zella, did you learn anything today? A little bit, maybe? Yeah. Rather be playing in the snow. Okay. We do have a committee meeting today. New member orientation in room 231. Who's running the new member orientation today, Case? Oh, Chuck's running it. Good deal. We want to thank our Rotary sponsors. You see their names on the placard in the center of your table. We're grateful for their support to make our club a stronger, better organization. Please do business with your fellow Rotarians. First, we appreciate our sponsors' participation and partnership with our business. Speaking of recently retired, Mike Homan, I see that Joey Snyder is sitting back there just behind you. He's recently retired too from First Fidelity Bank. Are you using AI to figure out a better retirement, Joey? Oh yeah, okay. Thank you for being here today and for all you do for Rotary, your continued commitment to service above self. We stand adjourned.